So there's a worldwide problem affecting everyone in this room. There aren't enough developers. So what can you do about it, right? Well, if you're the founder of a company, guess what? You have employees. But the ones I'm talking about aren't the developers, it's the non-technical people. You've probably already hired creative, credible, and hardworking folks, so why not give them the opportunity to learn to code? This guy is Chris. He's an accountant, but a couple of months ago he put together a team at Startup Weekend, and they built a pretty cool app that allows you to go ahead and play games while you're waiting in line. But how do you begin coding? Well, there's 3 questions you need to ask yourself. What do you want to achieve? And then from that, what do you need to learn? And then how do you go about learning it? Just break it down. So I'll tell you a little bit more about Chris. He's actually an accountant from Minnesota. And he didn't know how to program a year ago, but what he realized was he was always in spreadsheets, and he's like, this seems like a waste of time. Then he found out about Visual Basic and began running scripts. Then his afternoons were free, so he thought, why don't I learn Python? Then he quit his job, and now he has his own startup. So this is the bridge of learning to code. I encourage you to cross it. Other people are interested in crossing it, so we're going to talk about some ways that you can learn to code and not feel overwhelmed by the process. And I have started on the bridge as well. So how do people learn, right? We all think of books, and books have certainly increased our literacy rates, but they don't always work for programming because you're sitting there by yourself and you're sometimes frustrated. Also, you may have a different learning style. That's known as VARK, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But as kids, it's pretty easy. We get some paper, and then we start drawing. Then we go to school and they teach us math, they teach us social studies and other things like that. If we want to go to higher education, great. But along this path comes the expectation of conformity, and we lose our creativity. But think about wars. Soldiers have to learn how to fly helicopters and operate tanks and lots of other dangerous, exciting things. It takes practice and it takes training. That same thing can be applied to learning to code. Pablo Picasso, one of the first lean entrepreneurs out there. You know why? Because he used the color blue for a couple of years. He also was really sad about it, using blue, but think about it. He didn't have to focus so much on the tools he was using. He could focus on the product. All right, ready, set, code. We'll look at some ways to go ahead and get started. So really, learning to code, there's 3 options for you. Programming, which is you write instructions to execute the program, right? Then you have design. That's the interface that people, the human-friendly one. And then you have infrastructure. Can it scale? Is it going to be reliable? Actually, we've been doing this for many years already. Take a diamond. Someone wants to make something beautiful. They dig in the dirt. They find the diamond. They polish it up. And then they create a distribution channel. Software is really no different. Here are some examples, right? Hitmonk for travel, you got Dropbox for sharing files, and then you have Evernote for capturing your thoughts. They all involve programming, design, and infrastructure through their APIs. So where do you start? It can feel overwhelming, like there's a lot of people out there, but one of the first things I will encourage you to do is consider social learning. So don't learn on your own. Yes, there are books and other things we'll see in just a minute, but there are a lot of folks out there who are trying to find the same information as you. Here's the VARK that I was talking about earlier. And so the 4 learning styles could be visual, oral, reading, or kinesthetic. Most people are actually a combination of 2. You can Google for this and then find out your learning style. Tweet me the results. It's always interesting. So on the right, I have solo learning. We have videos. With Codecademy, you can go ahead and actually try out programming online without having to install an environment, and Rails for Zombies, because that's kind of fun and exciting. And the left is social learning. So if you do learn to code, what does that look like? If it's programming, it's Ruby, Objective-C, or Python. If it's design, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript for front end. And infrastructure, operating systems like Linux, databases, and so on. But how do you know these are the right ones to work on? Well, there's something like the TOB index, which actually measures search volume for programming languages. And so you can use this. I've indicated Objective-C is fairly popular. There was a study done on the brains of London taxi drivers. And it found out that if a taxi driver had been driving for at least 3 years on the streets of London, they had more gray matter in their brains. So what this means is we're all capable of learning to code. And you should definitely start your journey. I work as a developer evangelist at SendGrid. I started learning to program 2 years ago, and I love doing it. So I hope that you'll join me on the journey. Thanks.